There is that possibility of my husband and I being separated.
It's fairly consistent, after 25 years of being married.
I don't think there's a single letter that goes by that she does not say how much she misses my dad.
Make him something. Or Chloe asking for an ice cream cone. Something as simple as that. But the idea of me not being able to do that.
It seems like Julie Chrisley is having a hard time in prison, and according to recent news, she is broken down and is not doing well, feeling that she misses her family and that she had let them down, which she did. Disgraced Chrisley Knows best star Julie Chrisley was sentenced to several years in prison in November 2022 for a number of financial crimes, along with her husband, Todd, and just like him, she began serving her time back in January 2023. After their arrest, the public has been getting some updates on the couple from their daughter, Savannah, though we're now hearing that the matriarch isn't doing well with her new reality and has broken down. Instead of being closer to her husband, as was previously decided at FCI Marion in Florida, it was decided that Julie Chrisley would serve out her sentence at Federal Medical Center Lexington in Kentucky, which is quite the distance from her husband. Previously, Lindsay, Todd's eldest daughter, said that her dad and stepmother, Julie, had been welcomed with open arms by the prison populace in both of their facilities, because many were fans of theirs, but it's now being reported that Julie isn't adjusting so well. A source close to her said, "She is broken down. She is not doing well at all. She cannot fathom how she will spend years being locked up and feels that she let her family down." The source claimed that Todd had assured his wife that they would not go to jail, and now that they have gone to jail, Julie is regretting what she did in the name of fame. The source continued, "She is losing faith that they will get this overturned, and she is so sad. It is heartbreaking." The Chrisleys had asked the court for leniency after being found guilty, but were sentenced to several years in prison, each with Julie getting 7 years, and Todd being given 12 for bank fraud, tax evasion, and other crimes. All this jail time being far from each other must be taking a toll on Julie, and it makes sense that she would be having a hard time away from her family for so long, aside from having to adjust to prison life, which is obviously very different from the lavish lifestyle they once knew. The family was portrayed on their reality series as a pretty cohesive unit, and Julie and Todd are now separated from both their children and each other. When Savannah was giving updates on her parents, she claimed that her mom was being housed in conditions that were worse than the service dogs at her prison, and obviously this was heartbreaking for both her and her mother. "I can't imagine someone who used to live in a mansion having to go through what Julie is. Tough." Savannah also said, just a couple of weeks after Julie began serving time, that her mom was doing really well and had become friends with other inmates while working, attending church when possible, and keeping busy. It was just recently that she added that her mother had sent her home after a visit with a stack of daily letters, talking about missing Todd and lamenting how Savannah has had to put her life on hold because of their prison time. We were first introduced to the Chrisleys back in the 2010s when in 2014 the premiere of Chrisley Knows Best happened, and we saw Atlanta real estate tycoon Todd Chrisley give the cameras a tour of his pristinely organized closet, bragging that his family spends about $300,000 a year, and sometimes more, on clothing. They were the flashy new reality show stars, bagged with money and expensive taste and a funny but close-knit relationship. Thus, Chrisley, along with his family, which includes wife Julie Chrisley, became famous for showing off their opulent lifestyle on their USA Network TV show. Less than a decade later, reality caught up with the reality TV family, and eventually Todd and Julie Chrisley were found guilty of conspiracy to defraud banks out of more than $30 million in fraudulent loans and evading taxes. And after pleading guilty, they were sentenced to federal prison for their convictions. In an episode of the family's Chrisley Confessions podcast, Julie claimed she had been praying hard, saying, "I have been really reading and praying with my prayer partner and believing that the journey that we're all on, that there is a reason, there is a purpose." Eventually, the both of them were sentenced, with Todd Chrisley being sentenced to 12 years in prison, while Julie Chrisley was sentenced to 7 years. And upon their release, they will both be on probation for 3 years. Throughout the case, the two maintained their innocence, and their lawyers said the couple had planned to appeal the verdict in their case. And this didn't seem to have worked out, since they were ordered to report to prison in mid-January to begin serving their sentences. A world that is a far cry from the lavish surroundings that they became famous for. The Chrisleys were initially set to serve their time in Florida, where they would have at least been close to each other, but Julie Chrisley was ordered to report to a facility in Lexington, Kentucky, and Todd Chrisley to a federal prison in Pensacola, Florida. On the podcast, Todd said, "I believe that the true growth comes at the deepest part of the pain. I believe that the harder it gets, the closer to God we need to claim." Savannah shared more insight into her mother's prison struggles on her podcast, explaining that her mom was scared but that she was keeping herself busy by taking classes. Savannah had said that when she had visited her mother, Julie sent her home with 30 to 40 days worth of letters, adding that was like her daily diary. Savannah explained, "It was a lot to read. It was tough to see the accounts of her day and just things that she's scared of or nervous about, or just all the thoughts that go through her mind. Savannah has visited both Todd and Julie since their January surrender and said that her mom has been taking classes to pass the time. She's just staying busy, you know, like she's trying to do anything and everything, take classes, everything known to man that she can do, she does. Savannah also added that she thinks her mom was trying to shield her kids from a lot of things regarding their legal issues so as to protect them. Now, it's also been hard for Savannah after her parents were sentenced to prison since she has had to take custody of her niece Chloe, who had been under her parents' custody. An insider claimed that Savannah was struggling to cope, saying, "Savannah is just not coping well with trying to be a mom to Chloe and her brother Grayson." She had even told her listeners that it was extremely hard embracing her newfound role as a caregiver to her underage brother and niece. She had joked, saying, "I'm helping to raise my 10-year-old sister and 16-year-old brother, and I'm trying to date. And I'm like, what do you do with them?" She admitted, "The 16-year-old, he drives and all that. But the 10-year-old, I'm like, you gotta maybe come have dinner with me." There was an episode of Chrisley Confessions where Julie seemed hopeful when discussing her impending prison stay, saying, "I think it puts things into perspective for me because we all think our heart is the hardest thing. It has been such a source of strength for me because I have not typically been a crier, and this whole experience has truly taken me to my knees."
But there's a difference between my husband and I being separated for a period of time and having to say goodbye forever.
Yeah.
She had claimed there was that possibility of her and her husband being separated, but that wasn't that bad since there's a difference between her and her husband being separated for a period of time and having to say goodbye forever. Todd and Julie were found guilty on federal charges of bank fraud and tax evasion and submitting false documents to banks to take out loans, reportedly worth more than $30 million, to finance their opulent lifestyle. After their sentence, their television show, Chrisley Knows Best, as well as the spin-off, Growing Up Chrisley, was yanked off the air by USA Network. The only hope now is that the family, mostly Julie Chrisley, can continue to adjust to their situation, as it could be a very long time before anything changes. A fan on Twitter said, "Bankers are untouchable. Julie Chrisley not doing well in jail for her role in a $30 million scheme and the bankers of the 2008 financial crisis, where some bankers created trillions in losses and no banker went to jail. Again, amazing the untouchables got away." Another said, "Julie Chrisley has broken down behind bars and regrets what she did for fame and money. Anyways, let's not forget that this video is based on theories and my opinions and should not be considered facts." That's it for this video. Guys,